Customers avoided this scary-looking tattoo artist until they saw his incredible work. He stood behind the counter of the tattoo shop, watching potential customers walk in, take one look at him and immediately ask for someone else. At 6'4" with a shaved head covered in intricate tattoos, multiple facial piercings, and arms that told stories in ink, Marcus Rodriguez looked exactly like what most people expected a tattoo artist to look like. What they didn't expect was that beneath that intimidating exterior was an artistic genius whose work would soon make him the most sought-after tattoo artist in the entire state. But the journey from being judged by his looks to being amazed by his talent would change everything they thought they knew about appearances and artistry. Meet Marcus Rodriguez, a 28-year-old tattoo artist working at Ink and Steel, a mid-tier tattoo shop in downtown Phoenix. Marcus had been tattooing for 8 years, but despite his incredible skill, he struggled to build a steady clientele. The problem wasn't his work, it was how people reacted when they first saw him. Marcus was imposing in every sense of the word. His entire head was covered in a detailed biomechanical tattoo that made it look like his skull was partially cybernetic. His neck bore an intricate dragon that seemed to breathe fire up toward his jawline. Both arms were sleeves of interconnected artwork telling the story of his Mexican heritage mixed with surreal, almost otherworldly imagery. His face told its own story through carefully placed piercings, a nose ring, eyebrow piercings, and gauges in his ears that had taken years to stretch to their current size. When he smiled, which wasn't often during business hours, gold teeth caught the light and added to his intimidating appearance. To most people walking into a tattoo shop for the first time, Marcus looked like their worst nightmare. He embodied every stereotype about tattoo artists being dangerous, unprofessional, or associated with criminal elements. Parents would literally pull their teenage children away from his station. Young professionals would specifically request the normal-looking artist. Even experienced tattoo collectors sometimes hesitated when they saw him. What these customers didn't know was that Marcus had a master's degree in fine arts from Arizona State University. He'd spent years studying classical painting techniques, sculpture, and art history. He could discuss the brushwork of Caravaggio as easily as he could explain the cultural significance of traditional Japanese tattoo imagery. More importantly, Marcus possessed a rare gift that separated him from 99% of tattoo artists. He could take someone's vague idea and transform it into a masterpiece that exceeded their wildest dreams. He didn't just copy designs from books or trace stencils. He created original artwork that was perfectly tailored to each client's body, personality, and vision. But none of that mattered if people wouldn't give him a chance. The shop where Marcus worked had 3 other artists. There was Danny, a clean-cut guy in his 30s who looked like he could be a suburban dad. Sarah, a petite woman with only a few visible tattoos and a friendly demeanor. And Jake, the shop owner, who had the rugged but approachable look that many clients found reassuring. Day after day, Marcus would watch customers walk in and immediately gravitate toward his colleagues. When the receptionist would suggest Marcus for a particular style of work, customers would politely decline and wait for one of the others to become available, even if it meant scheduling weeks later. "I'd prefer someone with a more traditional approach," they'd say, as if Marcus's appearance somehow indicated he couldn't handle classic tattoo styles. The frustration was eating away at Marcus. He'd gotten into tattooing because he loved the intersection of art and human connection. Each tattoo was supposed to be a collaboration between artist and client, a permanent piece of art that would tell someone's story or mark an important moment in their life. Instead, he spent most days doing walk-in flash tattoos, simple designs that didn't require consultation or artistic input. While his colleagues worked on elaborate custom pieces that showcased their skills and built their reputations, Marcus was stuck doing basic hearts, anchors, and tribal designs for clients who wanted to get in and out as quickly as possible. The breaking point came on a busy Saturday afternoon when a young couple walked into the shop looking for matching tattoos to commemorate their engagement. They had a beautiful concept: 2 koi fish that would connect when they held hands, creating a complete circle representing their eternal bond. The receptionist, knowing Marcus's exceptional skill with Japanese-style artwork, suggested they consult with him. The woman took one look at Marcus and actually stepped backward. "Oh no," she said loud enough for the entire shop to hear, "we want something elegant and meaningful. We need someone who understands, sophisticated design." The implication was clear. Marcus's appearance meant he couldn't possibly create sophisticated art. Danny, who was booked solid for the next month, tried to redirect them. "Marcus is actually our specialist in Japanese traditional work. He's created some of the most beautiful koi pieces I've ever seen." But the couple was adamant. They'd rather wait 6 weeks for Danny's schedule to open up than trust their important tattoo to someone who looked like Marcus. That night, Marcus went home to his small apartment and stared at the walls covered with his artwork. Paintings, sketches, and photographs of tattoos he'd created filled every available space. Some were photorealistic portraits that looked like photographs. Others were intricate geometric designs that seemed to pulse with mathematical precision. Still others were flowing, organic pieces that captured the essence of nature in stunning detail. He pulled out his portfolio and flipped through pages of work that would make any tattoo artist jealous. There was the biomechanical sleeve he'd done for an engineer that incorporated actual blueprint elements from the client's inventions. The memorial piece for a mother who'd lost her son in Afghanistan. A portrait so lifelike that she cried when she first saw it. The cover-up work he'd done for a domestic abuse survivor, transforming ugly scars into a beautiful phoenix rising from flames. Every piece told a story. Every tattoo was a masterpiece. And almost no one got to see them because they couldn't see past his appearance. Marcus made a decision that night that would change everything. The next morning he arrived at work 2 hours early and spent the time setting up something he'd never done before. A proper display of his portfolio. Not just the standard book that artists kept at their stations, but a full presentation of his best work, mounted and lit like gallery pieces. He arranged photographs of his tattoos alongside the original sketches and paintings that had inspired them. He included testimonials from clients, before and after photos of cover-up work, and detailed explanations of the techniques and symbolism behind each piece. When the shop opened, his colleagues were amazed. "Marcus," Sarah said, studying a photograph of an intricate mandala he'd tattooed on a client's back, "I had no idea you could do work like this. This is museum-quality art." Jake nodded in agreement. "Why haven't you been showing this stuff to customers?" Marcus shrugged. "Hard to show your portfolio when people won't talk to you long enough to look at it." That afternoon his display got its first real test. A woman in her 50s walked into the shop looking nervous but determined. She approached the reception desk and quietly asked about getting her first tattoo. "It's for my daughter," she explained to the receptionist. "She passed away from cancer last year, and I want to honor her memory with something beautiful. She always loved butterflies." The receptionist started to direct her toward Danny, who handled most of the memorial pieces, but the woman's eyes had already been drawn to Marcus's display. She walked over slowly, studying each photograph with growing amazement. "Excuse me," she called to Marcus, who was organizing supplies at his station. "Did you create all of these?" Marcus looked up, expecting to see the usual expression of nervousness or distrust. Instead, he saw genuine curiosity and growing excitement. "Yes, ma'am," he replied, walking over to join her. "These are all pieces I've done over the past few years." She pointed to a photograph of a memorial tattoo he'd done for another mother. A realistic portrait of a young man surrounded by meaningful symbols and flowing script. "This is exactly the kind of thing I'm looking for. Can you tell me about your process?" For the first time in months, Marcus felt a spark of excitement. Here was someone who cared more about his work than his appearance. "Well," he began, his professional demeanor softening into genuine enthusiasm, "the first thing I do is really listen to what the client wants to convey. Memorial pieces aren't just about creating a likeness, they're about capturing the essence of someone's relationship with the person they've lost." The woman, who introduced herself as Linda, spent the next hour talking with Marcus about her daughter Emma. She shared stories about Emma's love of nature, her infectious laugh, and her courage during her battle with cancer. She showed him photographs and explained the specific memories she wanted to honor. Marcus listened intently, occasionally asking questions that showed he understood not just the technical aspects of what she wanted, but the emotional significance behind it. As they talked, Linda began to relax completely, forgetting entirely about her initial concerns about his appearance. "I'd like to propose something," Marcus said after they discussed her ideas thoroughly. "Instead of just a butterfly, what if we created a piece that shows the transformation? We could start with a caterpillar representing Emma's earthly life, transition through the chrysalis representing her struggle with illness, and emerge as a butterfly representing her spirit set free." Linda's eyes filled with tears. "That's perfect. That's exactly what I want." Marcus spent the next 2 hours sketching while Linda watched. His hands moved with confident precision, creating first rough concepts, then increasingly detailed drawings. As the design took shape, other people in the shop, both customers and artists, began to gather around to watch. The sketch that emerged was breathtaking. It wasn't just a butterfly tattoo, it was a complete narrative told through flowing, organic lines. The caterpillar section incorporated elements that Linda had mentioned about Emma's love of gardening. The chrysalis phase included subtle references to the medical equipment and treatments Emma had endured, but rendered in a way that emphasized transformation rather than suffering. The butterfly that emerged was magnificent, its wings incorporating patterns that referenced Emma's favorite flowers and colors. "I've never seen anything like this," Linda whispered. "How did you know exactly what I wanted when I couldn't even describe it myself?" Marcus smiled, a genuine warm expression that completely transformed his intimidating features. "Because I was really listening. Art isn't just about technical skill, it's about understanding what someone needs to express and helping them find a way to say it." The tattooing process took 4 hours, during which Linda talked continuously about Emma while Marcus worked with focused intensity. Other customers in the shop kept finding excuses to walk past his station to watch the piece come to life. As Marcus worked, something magical happened. The intimidating exterior that had kept customers at bay seemed to disappear. In its place was an artist completely absorbed in his craft, someone whose every movement was deliberate and skilled, whose concentration was absolute, and whose care for his client's emotional needs was evident in every line he drew. When the tattoo was finished, the entire shop fell silent. The piece was extraordinary, a work of art that happened to be permanently placed on human skin. The transformation from sketch to tattoo had somehow made it even more beautiful, as Marcus had adapted the design perfectly to the contours of Linda's shoulder blade. Linda looked at the mirror reflection and began to cry. "It's perfect," she said through her tears. "It's exactly how I want to remember her." "How did you make something so sad into something so beautiful?" "Because Emma's story isn't sad," Marcus replied gently. "It's about love, courage, and transformation. That's what we captured." The other customers who had been watching were speechless. Here was this scary-looking tattoo artist they'd all avoided, creating work that was not just technically excellent but emotionally profound. Word of Linda's tattoo spread quickly through social media and local networks. She posted photos of the piece along with the story of her experience with Marcus, emphasizing how wrong she'd been about her initial assumptions and how incredible his artistry was. Within a week, Marcus's appointment book began to fill up. Customers started specifically requesting him, drawn by the online buzz about his work. More importantly, they came in with attitudes completely different from the previous months of nervousness and distrust. The transformation wasn't just in how customers perceived Marcus. It was in the kind of work he was finally able to do. Instead of simple flash tattoos, he began creating elaborate custom pieces that challenged his skills and showcased his artistic vision. There was the mechanical engineer who wanted a piece that combined his love of classic cars with his technical background. Marcus created a design that looked like a cutaway view of a vintage engine, but with organic elements growing through the machinery, representing the balance between technology and nature in the client's life. There was the military veteran who wanted to cover scars from an IED explosion. Marcus designed a piece that incorporated the scars into the artwork, turning them into lightning bolts that powered a phoenix rising from flames, a powerful symbol of resilience and rebirth that honored rather than hid the veteran's experience. There was the young mother who wanted a piece celebrating her children but didn't want typical mom tattoos. Marcus created an abstract piece based on children's drawings, taking the innocent artwork her kids had created and translating it into sophisticated geometric patterns that captured the joy and creativity of childhood while maintaining artistic elegance. Each piece was unique, personal, and technically exceptional. More importantly, each client left feeling like they participated in creating something meaningful rather than just purchasing a service. The other artists in the shop watched Marcus's transformation with amazement and respect. Danny, who had been the shop's most requested artist, found himself referring clients to Marcus when their concepts required the kind of artistic vision that Marcus possessed. "I can execute a design well," Danny admitted to a client who was wavering between artists, "but Marcus can take your idea and make it better than you ever imagined it could be." 6 months after Linda's butterfly tattoo, Marcus's reputation had spread throughout the Phoenix area and beyond. Tattoo collectors were driving from other states to work with him. His Instagram account, which had barely had any followers, suddenly had tens of thousands of people following his work. But the real measure of his success wasn't in his growing fame or increased income. It was in the relationships he built with clients and the meaningful work he was finally able to create. The breakthrough moment came when Marcus was invited to participate in a prestigious tattoo convention in Las Vegas. These events were where the industry's top artists showcased their work, competed for recognition, and established their reputations on a national level. Marcus was nervous. Convention audiences were sophisticated, experienced tattoo collectors who had seen the best work from around the world. Would his art stand up to that level of scrutiny? He needn't have worried. The piece he created at the convention, a large-scale collaboration with a client who wanted to document her journey through addiction and recovery, drew crowds throughout the weekend. The design told her story through symbolic imagery that transformed the ugly reality of addiction into a beautiful narrative of struggle and triumph. When the convention awards were announced, Marcus won first place in the Best Large Black and Gray category. But more meaningful than the trophy was the reaction from other artists, who approached him throughout the weekend to compliment his work and discuss his techniques. "Man," said Tommy Montoya, a legendary artist from Los Angeles, "I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've never seen anyone combine technical skill with storytelling the way you do. Your work has soul." The convention transformed Marcus from a local artist struggling with prejudice to a nationally recognized talent. Tattoo magazines featured his work. Other artists sought him out for collaboration. Clients began booking appointments months in advance. But success didn't change Marcus's appearance or his commitment to meaningful artwork. He still looked exactly the same, intimidating to those who didn't know him, but respected by those who understood that artistic genius comes in all forms. The real validation came a year later when Linda returned to the shop for a touch-up on her butterfly tattoo. The piece had healed beautifully and remained as vibrant and meaningful as the day it was completed. "Marcus," she said as he made minor adjustments to keep the tattoo looking perfect, "I want you to know that this tattoo changed my relationship with grief. Every time I look at it, I don't think about losing Emma. I think about celebrating her life and carrying her spirit with me." She paused, studying his concentrated expression as he worked. "You know, when I first walked in here, I almost asked for someone else. I'm ashamed to admit that I judged you by how you looked." Marcus glanced up with that warm smile that had become his trademark among clients. "That's human nature. We all make assumptions based on appearances. The important thing is being open to changing those assumptions when we get new information." "But that's just it," Linda continued. "Your appearance didn't change, my understanding did. You taught me that talent, compassion, and artistry have nothing to do with how someone looks on the outside." As Marcus finished the touch-up work, Linda asked him something that had been on her mind for months. "Can I ask you something personal? Do you ever get tired of people judging you by your appearance? Do you ever think about toning it down to make business easier?" Marcus considered the question thoughtfully. "I used to think about it," he admitted. "But then I realized that my appearance is part of my art. These tattoos tell my story just like the ones I create tell my clients' stories. If I changed how I look to make other people more comfortable, I'd be betraying everything I believe about authentic self-expression." He gestured toward his portfolio display, now much larger and more prominent than it had been a year earlier. "Besides, the clients who can see past appearances to focus on the work, those are the clients I want to work with. They understand that art isn't about conforming to expectations. It's about expressing truth in whatever form it needs to take." Linda nodded, understanding completely. "You're right. The best art comes from authenticity, not from trying to please everyone." As she prepared to leave, Linda made one final observation. "You know what's funny? A year ago I thought you looked scary. Now when I see you, all I see is the artist who helped me honor my daughter's memory in the most beautiful way possible. Same person, same appearance, but completely different meaning." Marcus's story became legendary in the tattoo community, but its impact extended far beyond the world of body art. His journey from being judged by looks to being amazed by talent became a powerful reminder about the danger of superficial judgments and the importance of giving people opportunities to show who they really are. Social media posts about Marcus's work regularly went viral, not just because the tattoos were extraordinary, but because each post told the story of a client who had discovered that their assumptions about appearances were wrong. The hashtag judged by looks amazed by talent became associated with stories about overcoming prejudice and recognizing talent in unexpected places. Marcus began speaking at art schools and business conferences about the importance of looking beyond appearances in all aspects of life. His message was simple but powerful. Talent, character, and skill have nothing to do with how someone looks on the outside. "I could get laser surgery to remove my tattoos, take out my piercings and dress in button-down shirts," he would tell audiences. "I'd probably get more customers initially. But I'd also lose something essential about who I am as an artist and as a person. Authenticity isn't always comfortable, but it's always honest." The shop where Marcus worked became known throughout the industry as a place where artistic merit mattered more than appearances. Jake, the owner, used Marcus's success story in his marketing, positioning Ink and Steel as a studio that celebrated diverse artistic voices and challenged conventional expectations. But perhaps the most meaningful recognition came from an unexpected source. The local art museum invited Marcus to participate in an exhibition about contemporary American folk art. His tattoo photography was displayed alongside paintings, sculptures, and other traditional art forms, marking one of the first times that tattoo work had been featured in such a prestigious venue. The exhibition opening was attended by art collectors, critics, and cultural leaders who had probably never set foot in a tattoo shop. Marcus, dressed in his usual all-black clothing with his tattoos and piercings fully visible, moved through the crowd discussing art history, technique, and cultural significance with the same expertise he brought to his tattoo work. The human body has been a canvas for artistic expression for thousands of years, he explained to a group of museum patrons studying photographs of his work. What we call tattoo art today is really just the latest evolution of an ancient tradition of using permanent body modification to tell stories, mark important life events, and express identity. One patron, an elderly woman who had probably never seen anyone with facial piercings up close, listened intently to Marcus's explanation of the cultural symbolism in one of his Japanese-influenced pieces. "Young man," she said when he finished, "I have to admit that I was rather shocked when I first saw you this evening. But listening to you explain your work, I realize that you're not just a tattoo artist, you're a scholar, a historian, and a true artist. I apologize for my initial reaction." Marcus smiled graciously. "No apology necessary, ma'am. Art is about challenging preconceptions and opening minds to new possibilities. If my work and my appearance can help people think differently about talent and creativity, then I'm accomplishing something important." The museum exhibition was a huge success, drawing crowds who came specifically to see Marcus's work and stayed to explore other contemporary art forms. Several pieces sold to collectors, with the proceeds going toward a scholarship fund for art students from underserved communities. 5 years after that first portfolio display, Marcus had become one of the most successful and respected tattoo artists in the country. His waiting list extended over a year, clients flew in from around the world to work with him, and his artwork had been featured in museums, magazines, and documentaries. But success hadn't changed his fundamental approach to his work or his appearance. He still looked exactly the same, still intimidating to those who didn't know him, still authentic to his artistic vision, and still committed to creating meaningful art that told his clients' stories. The difference was that now, when people walked into the shop and saw Marcus, they didn't see a scary-looking tattoo artist. They saw exactly what Linda had learned to see, a master craftsman whose talent transcended appearances, whose artistry elevated tattooing from service to art form, and whose story proved that being judged by looks could never diminish being amazed by talent. Marcus Rodriguez had revolutionized not just his own career, but the entire conversation about prejudice, assumptions, and the true nature of artistic talent. He proved that authenticity beats conformity, that skill speaks louder than appearance, and that the most beautiful art often comes from the most unexpected sources. In a world quick to judge based on first impressions, Marcus's story serves as a powerful reminder. The most extraordinary talents are often hidden behind the most misunderstood exteriors. Sometimes the person who looks the most different from what we expect is exactly the person we need to help us see ourselves, our prejudices, and our possibilities more clearly. What assumptions do you make about people based on their appearance? Have you ever discovered incredible talent in someone you initially misjudged?